Vi voglio presentare il primo ospite di oggi. Lui si è laureato presso l'ENA, Sciences Po e EC, è stato amministratore delegato della Banca Mondiale, CFO di World Bank Group, ha pubblicato Can Finance Save the World? La finanza può salvare il mondo, con prefazione di Emmanuel Macron e Gordon Brown, è attualmente membro del consiglio di amministrazione canadese di FinTech Wealth Simple e direttore presso GetLink. Il nostro primo ospite di oggi è il CEO e fondatore di Blue Like an Orange Sustainable Capital, Bertrand Badrè. Bonjour Bertrand.
Bonjour, how are you?
Bonjour, ça va?
Ça va.
Let's do the whole thing in English because my French is not good enough, all right?
Absolutely perfect.
All right, so the first question I'd like to ask is, do you think this post-COVID situation will bring a new economic paradigm for all of us?
The question is not whether I think it will bring a new paradigm, whether it will bring a new paradigm. I think we are at a moment where we've spent a lot of time during COVID to discuss the world after. And we were locked down in our apartments, houses, and we say there will be a better world coming after COVID. And we spent a lot of brain cells around this. One of the French famous novelists, Michel Houellebecq, says the world after is going to be the world of before, but worse. So let's make sure he's wrong. And I think it's important to realize that we are at a transition point. We've been living for the last 50 years in the so-called neoliberal paradigm or conservative paradigm or the Washington consensus paradigm, which was broadly defined in the early 70s, in particular by the economist from Chicago, Milton Friedman, who defined the purpose, the social purpose of business as to be the maximization of profit and only that. Everything else, as he said, would be pure, unadulterated socialism. And this has innerved all the system, the accounting principles, the compensation policy, the governance, the fiduciary duties, etc., making profits as an end to an end. It has worked for a while, actually, and until it reached its limit with a financial crisis 10, 15 years ago. After the crisis, we made the decision to patch up the system, but we did not redesign the system. So we are still pretty much within the same paradigm. Until 2015, when together we made the collective decision, we might have forgotten it, but we made the collective decision to agree on a sustainable, inclusive and resilient economies. This was the Paris Conference on Climate in December 2015. This was a New York decision at the United Nations in September on the Sustainable Development Goals. That's the pins I'm carrying here. So we all agree on this new roadmap. But at that time, we did not really discuss how to get there. So everybody agreed that it was great that everybody has access to water, to health, etc. But we did not really discuss the mathematics behind it. We did not really discuss the money. We did not really discuss whether the system will naturally lead us there or whether we need to do something else. And that's really where we are today. 6 years ago, we saw that the enthusiasm of everybody, the handshake between Barack Obama and Xi Jinping would basically lead the market in that direction. We have applauded some pioneers, some trailblazers. We have congratulated ourselves for the development of the ESG, for environmental, social, and governance policies. We see how great impact is flourishing. I mean, we've seen all these little flowers blossoming in many respects. But at the end of the day, when the COVID hit a year and a half ago, everybody agreed that we were not on track for the roadmap. We were not on track on climate. We were not on track on any of the sustainable development goals. Then came the COVID. It was not an economic crisis, but it forced us to think about what comes next. And now, here we are. Are we capable to move in the direction that we agreed upon 6 years ago? Or was it just a kind of moment where you fool yourself and say, yes, we will try, but we are not so sure? So I really believe that now is the time to really be serious about what comes next. It's very interesting to see that, so the Friedman article on the maximization of profit was in 1970. And in 1972, the Club of Rome published its report, actually the first report questioning the limits of growth. They will celebrate the 50th anniversary next year. So how will we get there? Will we stick to Friedman and maybe miss the chance to really adapt our economy? Or will we take the lessons from 50 years ago and really adjust our system? Because I believe that we just cannot rely on the goodwill of few individuals. We need to embed the changes in the system, meaning all the tools that make the daily life of entrepreneurs, like people in this room, but also the education of everybody. I mean, these changes will be brought by norms and regulations on one end, but also market pressure, consumers, investors, workers, etc. Now is the time. We shouldn't fool ourselves. I don't think it's done yet.
We actually do talk about sustainability, SDGs, standards, and improvements in terms of sustainability a lot more today than we used to do 10 years ago or in the 70s when Friedman's article came out. But do you think this is a trend which will slowly fade into normality, let's say, or is it something serious at the top of the global agenda?
Well, I believe the jury is still out. I mean, it's really these moments where you can see the glass half full or half empty. Personally, I try, this is my character, I try to see most of the glasses half full. So to see it half full, I mean, it's true that you have now 40 or 50 trillions of dollars of assets under management, which are labeled ESG. You have, I mean, 1 or 2 or 3 trillions, depending on the way you measure, which are labeled impact. So you have more than $1 trillion of green bonds. So all these are real figures. I mean, this is real money. I mean, trillions are real money. So that's okay. That's moving in the right direction. And you have more and more. I've read yesterday that 50% of the IPO in the US, and you know there is a big IPO boom in the US today, more than 50% of the IPO put this question of sustainability very high in their prospectus. So this is very new. This was not the case 2 or 3 years ago. So there is something happening, and we should really cheer for that. I mean, we should be very cheerful for that. That's really where I'm hopeful. Where I think that it's still very fragile is that it's still very much based on the goodwill of people. In the system today, you have no real reward for good behavior and no real punishment for bad behavior. So if you do the right thing, it's okay, you feel good, but there is nothing that will prevent the whole thing from failing if you move away. I mean, if a leader is removed and the successor is not so much inclined to pursue this, it's not there yet. So we have to make sure, and that's really the point in Europe in particular, where the discussions are probably ahead of the pack in the world, to make sure that this is part of the new, not only regulation, you know, French and maybe Italians love regulations, they love norms, they love, you know, the controls. I think it's important, but we need also to make sure that people understand that collectively they have the capacity to influence the system. I work quite extensively with Paul Polman, the former CEO of Unilever, and he really steered Unilever into the direction of sustainability. And I asked him, why did you do that? And he said, first, it was my conviction, but second, I could not attract any talent. People didn't want to work with Unilever because, I mean, selling soap was not attractive enough, but moving into a company which is promoting sustainability makes a change. So if consumers, if workers, if investors are pulling in that direction, that will help. So that's really the moment where we are probably close to the tipping point, but I don't think we're there yet. So let's celebrate the good things happening, but we need to continue pushing. We need to continue pushing. And the last point on this, I think Europe has a particular responsibility because we've been ahead of the thinking on this compared. I just relocated from the US to Europe. I spent the last 10 years in the US. The US are behind us on this. But my point is, who will decide in 10 years what is good and what is bad? I mean, 20 years ago, Europe abdicated the control of its accounting system. We adopted the IFRS system, and I'm pretty sure people are familiar with that in the room, and we have no say on the system today. I don't want this to happen again with the extra financial norms. We have to to take the lead. We have to control our destiny and make sure that we decide what is good and what is not good in the economy. Let me take an example. Coming from the US, when you discuss diversity and inclusion, people are focused on ethnic diversity. And that's really the first question that we raise. Whereas in Europe, this is not really the way we handle things. And so who will decide what is the right thing to do? This is a clear example. Who will decide what is the right electric vehicle and so on? Who will decide on the way we shift our economy in the coming years? So it's a very important discussion at a moment where there is no master of the world to decide for us. There will be a competition between Europe, the US, and China, and we should not be naive in that competition. So ESG is moving up. ESG is about intentionality, is about best efforts. It's good. It's a necessary first step, but the real change will be impact. Impact means I'm taking a direction. It's no longer best efforts. We are targeting an outcome. We are targeting an outcome that is measurable, that is auditable. That's a big shift that is ahead of us.
For ages and ages, ecology and sustainability clashed against these theories, which, well, Friedman was not the only one, but the idea that every company had to chase profit, and that was the only thing. And ecologists, the green parties, etc., used to go against them face to face. Now, from your words, I see that maybe we're moving towards a situation where it's not a fight against market, but people can work together and walk together towards the same aim, the same target. What do you think we have to do towards sustainability now?
I think it's really, and I'm always cautious because being French, people suspect the French people to target, you know, the tabula rasa, the revolution, the Bastille Day, the abolition of privileges, and yes, no, it's not going to be a grand soir. We will not have an overnight change. This is a 15, 20 years challenge ahead of us. It's really about discussing our operating system. So we have to move from a system where profit and maximizing profit is the only purpose of business to a system where, and I borrow these words from Colin Mayer, who is a former dean at Oxford Business School, who says the social purpose of business is to find profitable solution to the problem of this planet and its people, and not profiting from problems created. So it's not to say profit is bad. Profit is absolutely good, but profit should not be an end to an end. Profit should be a means to an end. Profit is legitimate when it's about bringing solution to our problem, the problem of the people of this planet, and the problem of this planet. That really will be a way to put profit at the center of a new paradigm. And that's really what is needed. It means that we have to work on all the details of our daily business life. I mentioned accounting, governance, etc. It also means that we have to revisit our financial models. You know, the financial industry is based on the risk-return equilibrium, and we all know that. This is our daily bread. I believe that risk-return I mean, the IRR is a complex approach. I mean, it's one figure. You say, oh, it's an IRR of 14.5%, but behind this 14.5%, you have dozens of spreadsheets. I think we can make this a little bit more complex by adding a third pillar, risk, return, and sustainability, or risk, return, and impact. We have to incorporate in our financial models the price of carbon today, the price of nature tomorrow, the price of a good social life the day after tomorrow, etc. We really have to shift our models. Again, at the end of the day, I mean, I've been CFO for many years. Profit, when you ask in the street people, what is profit? People say, hey, it's revenues minus cost, which is like, you know, a grocery shop. I mean, the cash accounting. It's very true, but the truth is that everybody in this room knows that there are many ways to calculate revenues, many ways to calculate your costs. So the profit is not a norm. The profit is an outcome of a calculation. If you change the parameters of this norm, you shift from measuring profit to measuring performance. And this performance should be aligned with the changes we are discussing, the resilience, the sustainability, etc. I think it's interesting to see that 20 years ago, sustainability was a conviction thing. Then it moved to be a risk factor, in particular vis-à-vis climate. Now we are moving to sustainability being an opportunity. I've discussed with a number of companies, in particular, I have a precise example, a big restaurant chain. And they say when you have this type of business, you can't ignore food waste. You can't ignore the sourcing of products. You can't ignore the packaging. All these things are important. And it's good if we take care of this. It's good for our P&L, quantitatively, because we'll attract more customers, qualitatively, because these customers will trust our integrity and will stick with us. And at the end of the day, we'll get a higher multiple in terms of valuation. So I think there is a strong connection between values and valuation. That's probably one of the big paradigm shifts that we are targeting. So that's, again, it's a long journey. It has started, but all of us in this room, virtual or real, have a say. It's not they, it's all of us.
Thank you very much for explaining everything and for seeing the glass always half full, because if it was half empty, the tone would have been way different. Thank you, Bertrand Badrè. Merci.
Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup.